So how do we adapt when our content and our plan goes out the window of what we were going to talk about? You know, we all have notes. I saw everybody back here going through all their notes. May the 4th, 2007, 9:40 at night, we went from a small rural community, living our happy little lives, tree-lined community. At 9:40 at night, an EF5 tornado came through and leveled the community. 95% of it leveled to rubble. What do? When your plans totally changed in a matter of minutes, what are you going to do? It was 1.7 miles wide, which is about what the city limits is. We lost 11 lives and sorely missed those 11 lives that we lost, friends and neighbors. But we realized that we were blessed with a tremendous opportunity. And so where those opportunities started, FEMA came and put us up a big circus tent, and we did everything in that circus tent. We hugged together, we cried together, we laughed together, we had community church service together, and this is where we did our planning, our long-term recovery plan, our sustainable master plan. We found a way to reason together. We found a way to have common ground. We had true, honest, open dialogue, and we agreed to disagree on some issues. Of a community that was only 1,500 before the tornado, we'd have 300 and 400 people show up once and twice a week for planning meetings. That's commitment to community. So when I was thinking about what am I going to talk about now that they've told you all about sustainability and everything, I'm going to talk about community, of what it really means. Know your stakeholders in your community. Know who they are. Prior to any disaster, and I don't care where you're at in Herndon, maybe even across the Potomac, there's disaster there right now and they don't realize it. It's called Pennsylvania Avenue, both ends. Kind of got that? But you got to identify who the stakeholders are. Who are you going to bring to the table that's going to utilize their talents in this planning process and decision-making process? And one of the first things you have to address as a community, who are you? What's your character? What's your values? What's your morals? You can't sit down and plan for the future or decide what's best for your community if you don't identify what your character is. And you can't take somebody else's plan that they were successful with and try to replicate it. But you can use a process, and that's the process that we used. So know what you care about. Know what your final goal is going to be. Define what you want your region to look like, your city, your county, your area, that state. What do you want to leave for future generations? The great Iroquois nation had a defining law, and it simply said in every deliberation, we must consider the impact on the 7th generation. 7 generations ahead. Now that's true sustainability if we're thinking about that on the decisions we're making now. As our ancestors built for us a community of Greensburg back in the 1800s, we had been blessed with an opportunity to build a community back for our future generations. Too many times we let the realities of today cloud our vision of a bright tomorrow. And ladies and gentlemen, we have a bright tomorrow. Because in our local communities, we can make a difference. You have to be informed, involved, and engaged in processes. Whether it be at your school or your church, city council, there's organizations all over you can plug in and be part of a community. Communities are doing 2 things. They're either surviving or they're thriving. And also there's another issue here. You either own your community or you rent your community. And I don't mean your home. Don't misunderstand that. Owning your community is you're informed, involved, and engaged. You buy the Girl Scout cookies. You go to the school programs. You pick up the trash on the street, when you see it, you don't expect somebody else to do it because they're paid employees. You take pride in your community. If you just rent it, you have an entitlement mentality that somebody else will take care of it for you. Now, don't get me wrong, we had some tremendous assistance from state and local agencies, but we also had our own sweat equity into it. So identify the things that you can change in the short term, and whatever you do, make sure you celebrate every success in life. In any decisions you make, in any situations you're at, celebrate the successes. When we'd have a groundbreaking for a new building, the school would turn out and send kids down because those little kindergartners were going to be the ones. In 50 years, they're going to tell their grandkids, I was there when we had the ribbon cutting. That's the heritage and the history we need to make sure we pass on, because that, again, is sustainability. The ability to endure and the ability to continue in existence. This is the triple bottom line that they were talking about earlier. About business, we have to have a thriving economy if we're going to all feed our families. But we are also called to be environmental stewards, to take care of what we've been blessed with, because we as a people can take advantage of that. So we have to decide in each one of our communities, how do we run our community to be a better place to live and work for all the residents of that community? And so when you bring those three, that three-legged stool together, that's what makes your community sustainable for the long term. And that is what we're all really trying to do, is making a difference at the local level. Our state and federal governments, in their best intentions, won't cure the problems at the local level. We have to do it ourselves. And we'll start showing our youth what it's like to be community servants. It's great to see the junior high kids here today, the middle school kids, volunteering, doing the things. Thank them when you go out. They need to understand that there's value in volunteerism, that there's value in being a public servant. So thank them for that. So where are we at today? You saw the rubble. First thing up, we had to make sure as a city, as a municipality, that we were setting the example. If you're going to build back, you're going to have utilities. Electric, sewer, water, etc. We are our own utility in the city of Greensburg. We handle everything but natural gas. So we were able to take advantage of every situation we could. The water tower is the first thing up. I want to tell you about public-private partnerships. It's not just about government that makes things happen. Private enterprise partnered with several entities to make this water tower work, including our own money from insurance money from the prior water tower. Not only was this fire protection and life-sustaining water for our citizens, this was a beacon of hope on the plains of south central Kansas. You could see for miles that, yes, travelers could say Greensburg is building back, they're coming back. So it's more than those life-sustaining deals. It's about hope and it's about encouragement. We have a strong sense in this country in several situations around the United States of extreme hopelessness. All you have to do is watch TV, listen to the radio, or read a newspaper. And there's a lot of hopelessness. We need to stand up to that and offer hope to people that there is a brighter tomorrow. We heard about LEED and US Green Building Council a little bit ago, and I'd just like to reinforce that our city council in a rural agriculture community embraced the idea of LEED certification, but the first LEED building in the state of Kansas was privately owned arts center. People said, well, why would you want to build that back right away? We need other things in the community. Well, remember, we lost trees, we lost grass, we lost everything. A little beauty goes a long way. You take great dynasties throughout history of what emphasis they've put on beauty and art. Don't underestimate what you're going to invest in. And I'm not just talking money, of time, of energy. Also in that process, in the LEED certification process, there's a misconception that it has to come out of Architectural Digest and look like it came from the moon. Buildings don't have to be that way. The new townhomes that were built by a private developer are certified LEED Platinum, a very traditional construction. But they're highly energy efficient. And every dollar that you can spend of making your building and your structure bigger, better, stronger to endure helps our tax base. And our tax base valuation funds city functions. Plus, you don't have to work on your home or businesses as quickly as you would if you just threw something up. So there's a long-term maintenance issue that you have to look at. So we were very blessed in a lot of things. We also went together and put in a business incubator that all of Main Street was wiped out, so businesses had to have a place to go. We've had tremendous occupancy in this of businesses that have started, been there 2-3 years, and hatched out of that into their own space. Now you notice on that roof line, and that's facing south, it's kind of like this. I'll just throw this in as a little nugget on building green and all that stuff. I saw that design and I go, I've seen that before. It was my granddad's chicken house. Because he knew if he got more sunlight in there in the winter, the chickens laid more eggs. Ladies and gentlemen, if you look around at a lot of things we're touting as new stuff, they're really not. It's what our ancestors, our pioneering ancestors knew when they moved to a certain region what worked. We talk about in the big cities now, green roofed buildings and all the benefits that can be. Well, my pioneering ancestors lived in green roofed homes. They were called sod houses on the prairie. Number one, that was the building material they had, and number two is they knew the benefits of having grass grow on the outside and the natural cooling and heating. We got to address in sustainability our consumption. We can talk about a lot of things about the climate and everything else, but the biggest impact we can make today is on our consumption. Look at all the lights that are on. Have you ever flown across the United States or driven down a road in the middle of the night and just wonder, what are all the lights doing on for? Makes you wonder. We went back with LED street lights, 40% savings on energy and another 30% savings on maintenance because they last so long. So it's just small things you can do. I'm not an advocate of a school or anybody going out and changing every light bulb to LED. But have a plan that when they burn out of what you're going to do to cut your energy costs. And those things have all been talked to you earlier today about, so I'll forego some of that. City Hall, 75,000 bricks reclaimed out of the rubble. I think about recycling and I think about my dad and when he passed away and we cleaned out the old Quonset at the farm. Man, he never threw away anything. You know, every scrap 2x4 was saved in the wood bin because it was 17 miles from town and you didn't throw it away. So define where you're at. Are you a hoarder or are you a recycler? Just, I'm throwing that out there, just kind of decide which one you are. But look at the full life cycle of your whole consumption. I challenge us all, and I'm not trying to stir the kettle at all, but each one of us, whether we go to full alternative energies, whether we go to net zero, whatever, we all have a carbon footprint in some way. Just lessen your carbon footprint and understand birth to death full life cycle of a product you're consuming. Just because it says it's green, or it's organic, or it's sustainable, know in your mind you're doing what you can to make a difference. Consolidation of resources. This building's a county building. 4 different agencies went together in the same building. Won't go into a lot of detail on that, but it's got geothermal, it's got solar, as the school does. They have a wind turbine. The city of Greensburg, being our own utility, 100% of the electricity used in the city of Greensburg is generated from the wind. We have the renewable energy credits from the Greensburg wind farm, 10 turbines that generate 12.5 megawatts. That electricity we use at peak demand right now, about 4.5 megawatts, and the rest of it goes on the grid. So it's consolidation of resources. In healthcare, the new hospital, the clinic, EMS, fire department, and everything are on the same campus now. Forward planning and taking time to plan. You know, don't make life decisions rapidly. And when someone says, well, what do you mean by that? You're in the middle of rubble. You got to make crisis management decisions right away. Yeah, you do. But you got all kinds of assistance to make those crisis managements from help from all over the state that came, professional people. What I'm talking about is visionary management. Don't make those life decisions rapidly, because those are the ones that are going to impact your community long after when they put you out in the cemetery. That impact's still going to be there. So make sure it's the right impact. Downtown area, just to show you what we built back, public-private partnerships. This business complex was just built by donations from community members, raised over $2 million. And people are hatching out of the incubator building across the street into this, and new people are coming into the incubator. John Deere dealership bought in because they made a business case of building LEED Platinum. They knew from a business standpoint, if they could cut their energy costs and they could utilize all the oil they change in tractors and combines and all that and recycle it through their boiler and their in-floor heating, of what that would save them on energy. So yes, we right here in our heart need to do the right thing, but American businesses, and they're out there, there's some great examples, are doing it because they're making a business case and they're being highly sustainable because it helps their bottom line. And that will change things. County courthouse did not get leveled. Some people would say, well, why are you going to replace the roof and all those windows? Let's just tear it down. Folks, that's our heritage and that's our history. You have to maintain that and be proud of it. Nonprofit, which we all donated to, is Community Theater and Auditorium. The school, when they built the new school, did not put an auditorium in the school. They took that money and put it with the money that the nonprofit raised for the community theater. We have the largest screen from Wichita to Denver showing first-run movies every weekend. We have conferences like this. We have state conferences there. We've made ourselves a destination place. And you know, we really like it when you come and spend your outside dollars in town, because that generates a little sales tax and that helps the city budget. And we do accept credit cards and debit cards. Greensburg's always been known as the home of the world's largest hand-dug well. It was dug in 18 because some of you are Googling it right now to find out if I'm telling you the right story. It was dug because of the railroad. Steam engines needed water every 10 miles. And out in our area, you'll see remnants of an old town or a grain elevator or something every 10 miles, because that's where they stop for water. Dug by hand, lined with rocks from about 12 miles south of town. It goes 109 foot down in, and it became the museum now of the history and the heritage of Greensburg and Kiowa County, of the disaster of what happened and the future of building sustainable and green. The example of the wind farm. Now, as a community, I'm going to wrap this up because we're getting late in the afternoon, but I want to challenge you to something. We sat down under the big tent as a whole community to come up with who we are, what's a vision statement. Simply, you can read this, that we felt we were blessed with a unique opportunity after a tremendous disaster to build a strong community. This devoted to family, because that's very important. A community, if a community isn't a family, it won't survive. It's not sustainable. Fostering businesses and working together for future generations. We are all called to be humble servants with a vision and a commitment to a brighter tomorrow. That's all it is. And we're not entitled to anything. The only thing that we might even be close to being entitled to is an opportunity to achieve. I didn't say be successful, but the opportunity to achieve. And we've been allowed that here. So in what we've heard all day about sustainability and everything, there's really only one question in all of this that drives everything. You can talk technical things. We have great people in universities and experts that you've heard already. But I just want to challenge you this. Do you want to leave your community, your region, your state, the United States of America, and the world a better place for them? God bless you all. Thanks.